Hi everyone, welcome to Third Coast Gaming Impressions. Today is June 24th. I'm joined by my co-host Austin Taylor. Hello.
Hi.
We got some video games to talk about today. There's been some all that good E3 news came out, and all those demos came out from what was it, Steam Next Fest on Steam and Summer Games Fest on Xbox.
Yeah, they put out a lot.
Yeah, Xbox's store was a little harder to find them. I think I eventually was like on like the Sable demo, and then went down and like popped up a bunch of. If you like this game, you would also like these ones. So I was like, okay, I'll go check one of those out. Fuck it. So I got like two or three of them. I didn't get too far in them though.
Yeah, I mean, they're demos. They're not meant to get too far into them.
No, but I guess we could start with Sable. Sable's pretty cool. I would call it like taking. It's like a feels like a little indie some open world game with some Breath of the Wild stuff. I didn't get the hang glider yet, but you have like an
Well, you
auto.
don't.
Oh, you don't? Oh,
Yeah, like within the demo ends like as you're assembling your glider. You
gotcha.
get to mess with one that someone within your because the whole sort of again the like big picture for Sable is like you are a girl going on a coming of age like sort of pilgrimage. Um, and part of what you're doing in this demo is like building the glider you're going to use as you go around the world. Um, and so you get that like quest to build the parts of the glider, and as like a sort of consolation to not having the glider ready for you, like the quartermaster of your camp is like, okay, you can use this old one I have sitting around for a little bit while you're building yours.
Yeah, and then it has like some of the climbing from Breath of the Wild where you'll kind of like auto cling to a wall, and then the stamina circle will come up and run out. And the animations for the main character, is her name Sable? Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
The young girl's name is Sable, and she's going through a rite of passage. And she's like the whole game kind of runs at like its regular frame rate of whatever 30 or 60, and she is like kind of 20 frames, which
Well,
gives
yeah,
it like a striking kind of look to it.
it's the like the sort of for better like reference, like the Spider-Verse thing of like Miles being going through most of that movie at like half the frame rate of everyone else kind of feeling.
Yeah, which works. I think this is coming to Game Pass when it comes out too. I remember
Yeah.
they were showing off a little bit of this at the Microsoft conference,
Yeah, Sable's Game Pass day one.
and it was interesting. I'm on the Wikipedia page here, and it is a two-person indie game. The team is known as Shedworks, and oh yeah, Japanese Breakfast was doing the game's soundtrack. I thought it was just that one song. I didn't know it was the whole thing.
I
It's cool.
mean, there's like a bit of what's in the menu is pretty Japanese breakfast, and then like at the very end you get the song that they've been using to promo the game since it was first like announced.
Yeah, and I guess the game concept kind of comes from Jakku from The Force Awakens, is something someone said in an interview, I'm guessing. And the art style is a little Studio Ghibli. It looks cool. I that the fucking jet bike is really silly, and I love it, and it's very fast.
Oh, yeah, it's great. Like I think moving around this world is going to be very interesting. Um, I also like one of the things that is like very striking about this game is how even in this like sort of desert, which as areas that like people have put in media are often sold as these like very barren and dead places. Like part of this game's demo is like interacting with children as they play, right? Like this game wants you to understand that there are like people alive here and like living. I think that's very cool.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I should play a little bit more. I just like the quest givers are pretty funny. There's some like when you're talking to people, you have different dialogue options of different like snarky things to say back to people, and they all kind of head to the same thing. But it's cool. I what else is there about it? Yeah, I don't know. The game just opens and you're like in this like it's not like it's like a shrine kind of, I would say. And you're going in the
Yeah, like a
open world,
temple.
starting your like coming of age, like whatchamacallit, like journey, as like
Yeah,
everyone in
pilgrim.
their village does.
Yeah,
Yeah, like a pilgrimage. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like it opens up in this like temple that I feel like is going to become some sort of central part of the game later, because if you turn around, like it starts off and you're looking out the front door of this temple. If you turn around, the first thing, like immediately the most striking thing is this sort of etched face, like mask almost,
The
in this
face
wall.
that stares.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I imagine at some point something's going to happen with this face.
it's a very big face.
Yeah, because I'm sure like it looks so detailed, and not to like say like the rest of the world doesn't, but it looks detailed in a way that like things you don't interact with usually aren't, you know?
Yeah. This is still a demo, but I think the first thing that happened to me is I jumped into the face and I clipped through it and got stuck
Yeah.
to like the wall behind it, and I was like, oh, that was weird.
Yeah, it can be a bit finicky. Like the climbing here is a bit rough. The camera at certain points can get pretty hard. It was pretty hard to sort of use. Um, and I think for me, the like money counter, because you get money in this game, um, referred to as cuts, right? Because they're just like cut off pieces of metal. Um,
Nice.
is like the money counter didn't go away once I got money, um,
Yeah.
which was a bit. It was just a bit like it made screenshots seem a bit worse, but that's about it.
Yeah. And what was the hook of this game? Is that you're meeting. I don't remember if this it was this or another one, but you're meeting people at their jobs and seeing what everybody else like kind of does,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, you're going around deciding like what you want to do with your life. Like you might come back, you might not. You know.
It's true. All right. I think that yeah, that's the Sable demo. How about we talk about one more of these demos and we'll go back into we'll go into the mystery game, which Austin will be disappointed by. No longer home. What's that, Austin? Tell me a tale.
Yeah. So no longer home is the sort of extended. I want to say extended game of it like a itch game jam project. I believe was named uh, Friary Road, which is about like these two college, like soon to be college graduates, uh, specifically in like the UK, somewhere that is not America, seemingly, because I don't know if they necessarily talk about debt in the way that like American students would. And they're about to like graduate from college, and they're sort of at this point where they just don't know what they're going to do. You know, it's that kind of it's again is very much about the feeling of uncertainty like at this transitional phase of your life. So like the first part of this demo is that Friary Road like itch project where they're sitting in the backyard of a friend's barbecue and just talking. And then the actual demo of No Longer Home is the protagonist Bo and O, as they sort of are on their last couple of days in their current home before like they move out, and their flatmate has already moved out, and it's just like them kind of going through this space for one of the like last times they'll ever be here, before some supernatural hijinks happen.
I am watching this trailer and there is some supernatural hijinks going on. There's a demon in this person's bed, Austin.
Yeah, so like you go into O and Bo's like bedroom, and one of the first things you see is this like this piece of geometry. It is just titled like strange geometry that's floating over their bed. Um, and like while playing as Bo, you kind of acknowledge it, but don't really do much with it. as it then leaves and like kind of like changes the environment of your bedroom a little. Because that's part of this whole game's deal is you are looking at these what is the right word for like maybe like little vignette is like more like a story pacing thing, but um
Yeah, because you have like a room you're in, and then everything
yeah,
else is like black around it,
yeah,
and
like
it's kind
everything
of
else is like
like
this void around it.
it's it's almost like a theater like setting, and also like a it looks like a miniature as well is another way like I'll think about it is if like
Yeah,
you have a miniature of a room with like only two of the walls up, and then the camera is looking at the room without the walls being up pretty much.
yeah. So it's like a miniature set that you would make for uh like a stop motion animation film.
Correct.
Um, and like you rotate the camera, right? And as you rotate the camera, like the walls fade in and out, and certain items in the room fade in and out. Um, and also depending on the interactions you have in this game, certain elements of the environment will change. Like one of the things that you can do is uh, talk to O about their workspace, which is really messy. And if you bring it up to them again, like this sort of the room will like phase a little, and then their workspace will be cleaned up a bit. Um, it is kind of it wants to like live in this space of just like going through these motions and not necessarily register like the actions, right? Like the physical action of like what you're doing, i.e., cleaning something, so much as it's just like this is the effect it has on the place you are.
Yeah, that game seems pretty cool. I'm into it. I've just been playing some Far Cry 5. They were on sale the other day, and I think I got it for like $8.
Hmm.
I I originally I don't remember why I bought this game originally. It might have been on sale at like GameStop or something, and I had it on disc. And I think I only got like 4 or 5 hours in. I I remember not having a good time because I was playing it by myself without any AI companions. And this like run around, I have two because I got to that point in the skill tree, and I'm just like having a better time with it. It scratches that itch of you're just like exploring shit, and then checking off these Ubisoft boxes of, oh, I have I have like, 7 camps I need to take over in this area, and then a bunch of side missions, and then blowing up tankers that I drive by sometimes. And I'm doing my Outriders thing of skipping every cutscene because I don't care about these people at all or the problem. The opening in this game, I don't. It opens up and you're like police in a helicopter going into like Montana to go arrest Joseph
Joseph
Seed,
Seed.
who's like
Yep.
the whatchamacallit cult leader of this area that for some reason police won't fuck with because narrative and has taken the whole area over. Or they have nukes or something, which is why we don't fuck with them. I remember one of the bad endings, like a nuke goes off, and that's how
Well,
New Dawn happens.
that's not like their thing. I mean, that's like the ending of Far Cry 5. Like that's like the air quote canonical ending of Far Cry 5 is um, relations between like the U.S. and other government powers deteriorate to the point where nuclear strikes are authorized. It's not like Joseph Seed has a nuke.
Oh, so they nuke the
Yeah,
area.
it's like
Okay.
the entire world gets nuked.
Oh, the entire world gets
Yeah,
nuked. That's
it's yeah
cool.
an entire like a nuclear
Dope.
apocalypse
Is
basically
it
happens
Joseph
then.
Seed's fault?
No,
Oh, okay. It's just a thing that happened.
it's
I guess I'll show up and I'll see it.
it's really a thing that happens. It's mostly like most of that is done through the radio in that game. If you're like in a car, you listen to radio, and that's where most of that is.
Interesting. I don't know. I'm just having a good time chilling. Okay, so this has like FPS boost on Xbox, which also helps. Like, I remember it just not running. It ran like okay on like a base PS4, but having it on like this kind of stuff is like a lot nicer, which has been cool. And I've been looking at the I must have played for like 5 hours yesterday, but I was looking at the Microsoft store, just being like, oh, look, there's all these packs are still on sale. I can get New Dawn, the Ultimate Edition, and the Season Pass for Far Cry 5 for $30. Oh, Far Cry 4 and Primal are bundled together for $17. Hmm. How's Far Cry 4? Is that? Do you think the gameplay of that like holds up? I don't.
I mean, it
I remember
plays
you
like a Far
talking about
Cry
it.
game. Like
Yeah.
it's, I don't think any of those games are particularly fun. So like I'm not the person to ask about Far Cry.
Gotcha, gotcha. I'm just having an alright time. If I get past the story stuff and I'm just kind of hanging out in what is like Wisconsin and like this just part of America where I'm just like, oh yeah, I've got the radio on and it's playing country music and like the environment looks really good on like a next gen console. So I might be fucking with a couple Far Cry games. I might do a Far Cry binge as Austin had his Resident Evil binge. So
Yeah, I mean, and the thing
let's
with
go.
five is it built up this thing as you go where the world becomes like increasingly more aggressive,
Oh, and
right?
are they aggressive? Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So like the best way that I think five can really be described is like this, the closest that you'll get to the like sort of world like mechanics of something like a Oblivion, where just weird shit's gonna happen as you're just going about in ways that are either very frustrating or very funny.
Yeah, like I've already had the 2 points where they will like. There's three areas in the game, and those are the three commanders, and they have like a bar, and there's like three sections of the bar, and every time you fill one of those three sections, is the commander of the area will want to have a conversation or some shit with you, so they'll go and like dart you asleep, and then you'll wake up so you can get bad guy in your face talking to you about stuff. And when that
Yep.
has happened, it's unskippable. And I'm like, oh, I'll just go put my dishes away, and I'll come back when they're done talking.
Yeah, and that's gonna happen pretty much every time.
God, I can't wait.
Sometimes they have you go to an area like I know there's a section in that game where I think one of the earlier seeds, um, who you kill like has you come to the church, where like your Reverend Pal is, and you just get to have to sit through this really terrible sequence where um, he like they knock you out, drag you to the front of the church, and begin carving like I think the word like heretic into your chest.
Oh, delightful. Whose one is that? I guess I should watch that one. I'm
I think
starting
it's
off with the TV fucking guy, who's like has what I will call his Joel Olstein show, where you just have to say yes, Austin. That's what happens in there.
wonderful. I don't know like which seed it is. It's probably John C because I think that's a character.
Yeah, yeah. But it's all right. Okay, all these Far Cry 4, 5, New Dawn, and Primal all have like FPS boost on Xbox. So, all right, sure, fuck it. I like. I've always like enjoyed open world games like this, like, but the shooting kind of makes it more like I liked Rage 2 for like the half of the campaign that I played. Like checking off checklists and shit. I'm trying to think of like other open world like stuff that kind of does it. This Far Cry sometimes straddles the line being like an open world and being like a GTA game where I think about like there's similar stuff where when I'm not in combat doing stuff, I'm just kind of driving around listening to the radio. But you don't have like these all these like Far Cry city states. Everybody in there wants like half the people want to kill you, and then there's like a bunch of rebels running around. I guess like Just Cause does this a little too, and like Ghost Recon Wildlands has that same like kind of open world like thing going on
Yeah,
where you're
yeah.
just destroying encampments and shit.
Yeah. I mean, I would say the thing with like Just Cause, at the very least, traversal in Just Cause is much more interesting than anything that Far Cry really gives you up until maybe you get to planes. But even then.
Yeah, because you get like a wingsuit in 5. I was like in the skill tree. It's like, oh, wingsuit, interesting. I don't. That might have been 3. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Or
I'm
4.
sure that they've been giving you wingsuits ever since 3 happened.
Yeah, which is
Because
like
that was
3 is because Far Cry 3 is like the blueprint for every Far Cry now, except for like I guess Primal, which it's it still kind of is. But I don't know. I ended up doing the thing. I think that I'm gonna do that I did in Ghost Recon. At a certain point, driving will just is just tedious enough to where you just take a helicopter everywhere and be fine with it. Because you can spawn helicopters at like the bases you take over, and the fast travel is pretty lenient to where you can just fast travel to any like area, like specific area of the map you've been to, and it loads fast enough on like a Series S. I'm like, all right, I could just fast travel a bunch too.
yeah, I mean that's the way to do it. Like I've considering that, especially when driving, like Far Cry games so far, because I don't know what they're gonna do with 6, but like have never pulled out of that first person camera, and they love having really windy roads and very like poor barriers on those
Yeah.
roads. I would never like as late as I got into Far Cry 3, as soon as I could, like I would abandon cars altogether.
Yeah, they have like an auto drive, which is interesting for 5, where if you have like a point on the mini map come up, you can press like L3, and the car will like just auto drive itself. You can like adjust it a little bit and speed up. The driving is like a little better in 5, at least from what I've been driving around in. Like I'm not like tumbling off the sides of stuff like I used to in 3. Maybe the cars aren't as fast. I don't know. And then, yeah, when you get to a certain escalation point in these areas, there's just roving convoys that are just blowing my fucking car up, and I've been really salty. But you can get like a companion who will fly around in like a jet or like a airplane, so he'll just like kind of help out with stuff.
Yeah.
There's, I'll say the companions are getting more and more interesting. I was like, oh, there's a bear on here. Sure,
Yeah.
fuck it. I think Far Cry 4 did that a little bit. 3 doesn't have companions at all, does it?
No, no, 3 does not. I think I think companions were they might have been a thing in like 4, starting in 4, because I think there's a bit in 4 where you can get like a honey badger um
Yeah.
companion, but I'm not entirely sure because I never messed with 4. And like in 5, like the companions were a big draw because the companions were like the people who have any sort of narrative like stake in what's happening because you're a blank slate character in that in 5.
Yeah, you're kind of a
Well,
blank.
the idea is like, like full player customization,
Yeah.
like you can be uh a man or a man or a woman, um and you can like wear whatever you want, like whatever like the game gives you, right? So you're just this blank slate, only ever referred to as the deputy, um,
Oh yes, or
kind
Rook.
of thing.
They call him Rook a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah.
Um, Apparently Far Cry 4 doesn't have companions. It might just be
Hmm.
5. I don't know. I
So
think
it
that's
might
kind of cool. When I played 3, I would just like everybody. You go to any place, everybody's just shooting at you. And I think this kind of helps like what to where it feels like you're going into an area with a squad of people, and you're not playing online with people.
Oh yeah, and it's also like with like 3 and 4, like is those don't have companions. Like the very common thing that a lot of people do whenever they get into any of these bases is where do they hide? Like where do the baddies have the animals that I can shoot the cage doors
Yeah, where's the
off of, right?
tiger? Oh
Like
my god.
yeah, where's the tiger I can let out so the tiger can kill
Yeah.
everyone? And then I can just claim the space after killing the tiger, that kind of thing.
There's this Far Cry 6 picture where there's a crocodile in human clothes, and
Yeah,
now I'm excited. I'm I'm very excited. That could be cool. I don't know. I'll probably end up fucking with that too. Um, sure. Let's go Far Cry. You can pet the. Oh yeah, that's right. You get like a whatchamacallit, a cougar that's named Peaches, and you can pet the cougar into it. You can pet the dog too.
I would
Oh
hope so.
God, Far Cry 6 is just tuning up the insanity. It just not the insanity, just the weird stuff. Like you have like a rooster companion who has like a spiked necklace around their neck, which is like the thing you're talking about, where it's like they want to have these like serious political stuff going on, and then they also have just this weird open world with like, we're gonna go insane. You're gonna have a fucking these crazy guns.
Yeah, and I, I don't know, like Far Cry only ever wants to have like any sort of serious tone as long as it means that they can use that to in trailers to sell like a tone that most of the game's not even going to be about. Like
Correct.
even New Dawn, which is like a post-apocalypse game, is like, oh, like the big serious threat being these two like twins. The second you get to that game, it's like, well, here's your buzzsaw launcher.
I,
Um,
ugh, I almost, I might buy that game. I think I'm gonna buy that game. I know that game. People didn't like it too much, and it's like 10 hours or something, but it's cheap.
yeah, I mean,
These things are cheap.
it's whatever. Like New Dawn's just a follow up to five in like a real way. I wouldn't say much about it's particularly interesting.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it scratches this itch of just like, oh, we're kind of waiting on releases, and I can just kind of play some stuff. I'm having it. The shooting is still. I still don't like the shooting as much. I feel like I'm more accurate and like. There's like more. I don't know if it's like bullet magnetism or if it's like just the way the aim down sights feels on console. But I'm missing more shots than I would in like a Call of Duty multiplayer or like a like a Battlefield campaign or something. I don't know. It's just different. All right, that's our Far Cry 5 bit for the week. Let's You got another demo on here, Norco. What's up?
Yeah. So like going sort of continuing with like the list of demos that we're going to see. Norco is a game where you play someone who is going back to the city of Norco, Louisiana, in this I want to say like slightly future America, where basically like the United States as a like singular entity is no longer exists in a real way. It's so it seems from the world building present in Norco. Um, and you're going back to Louisiana in the sort of aftermath of your mother's death. Um, Her death by metastatic cancer, and you're trying to sort of, I don't want to say put your life back together, but considering the opening of that game, it's probably going to be something that you're trying to do as that game progresses, because your whole thing is like you left your mother and brother behind when you were about 18 or some such age, uh, and this is the first time you've been back home in like a decade. And so most of Norco is dealing with this kind of like fantastic surrealist environment, like in the way that like a Kentucky Route Zero could be. Um, as you navigate like relationships that deteriorated once you left, like you go and one of the first things you do is talk to some dude who runs a gas station who absolutely hates you because like his whole thing is like, yeah, I came in here basically helped your brother out while you went off and did nothing with your life. Um, so like, you have to just deal with those kind of interactions and like how Norco has changed, and also in the ways that it's like stayed the same. It has a very interesting like sort of prose that is still very striking to find in games, even as we're starting to see more examples of it. In the wake of things like a Disco Elysium and a Kentucky Route Zero.
Yeah, it's a little like point and click adventure. I think the art style looks really cool for it.
Yeah, the art style is really interesting, especially like so far because the only sort of what's available in the demo is this kind of dusk setting as you're waiting for uh, like your brother to get home, and you're going around the town, and you're just exploring like the s- swamps, like close by to your neighborhood. You talk to like the people there. One of them being just like some old dude who's fishing and has no real time for anyone. All the businesses that were there when you left, but like have since been closed down.
Yeah, it seems cool.
Yep.
I'm looking at this next game on the list. Is Gloomworld,
Gloomwood.
Gloomwood. I'm fucking into this game's aesthetics. Oh my god.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, it's a real like I don't want to reference like the one other sort of Stoker aesthetic game that people know, but like it's a real sort of Bloodborne. But what if it was a 90s shooter?
yeah, yeah. We talked about last week where like last week or the week before this where there's like a revival of like these like early 90s, mid 90s area like polygonal platformers and first person shooters, and this is like right up that alley of like
Yeah,
if a Wolfenstein game came out in like 95, 98, this is what it would look like. And you don't have hands in this game, which I'm kind of into. When you're reloading your guns and stuff, you
no,
have
you,
like
you
this
do.
shotgun you pop open and two shells go into it.
Yeah, so the
Or
thing
maybe
the
this is a
thing
20, maybe this is like a 2020 trailer I'm looking at. Maybe it's different now.
yeah, so the thing with the demo is um as soon as it launches, you get a message saying that this is a pretty early alpha version of the game. Their latest trailer that was published during E3 does feature hands, um, and
Okay,
more
you got hands now.
and better like scene setting. Um, the whole thing with Gloomwood is you are a doctor who is gone into this city with a name I don't know, and I mean the name could just be Gloomwood, but I don't can't confirm that. So you go into this city to find a cure for a disease. It's a very similar setup, a la Bloodborne, and you get captured by like the soldiers hunt like roaming the streets, and what follows is like an escape, and then this becomes a sort of survival horror 90s shooter. And it's really interesting. Like even within this like build that isn't necessarily represented what the game is anymore. It features like a lot of like stealth focused that sort of like put the lights out, hide, cause a distraction loop of gameplay that can also get loud. And part of that is you constantly judging the the cost analysis, right? Of like, okay, you have 5 bullets in your revolver, it takes 3 to put a guy down. Uh, do you have enough bullets in your shotgun that you just picked up to where you can justify going loud?
Yeah, and that like 2020 trailer is making it look like a Doom more, where the way you're talking about it, this is more like a Resident Evil, and even there's like an inventory of a briefcase that you open up that's like
Yeah,
real time,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's kind of like the RE4 briefcase where it's like grids for everything.
yeah. It wants to sort of be that blend, right? I don't know how much the briefcase is going to impede your inventory, as much as it is like a overhauled interface for moving items around and like using them in context with certain devices, right? Because it's also that thing. Like within this demo, one of the main things you do is go into a sewer to get a seal for a door that will get you into a castle. And part of what you have to do is you have to go find a lever to let you get to the deeper part of the sewer. And you have to take that lever, put it in a console, yank it, and then you get to go to the deep sewer and fight some couple of monsters that live in the sewer, because as well as like angry like pilgrims, we'll say, angry pilgrim soldiers. Like I mean, pilgrims is in like people who came to the United States. Um, the yeah, and you also have like a couple monsters that look like really big ducks in this build. Probably going to look even more horrifying in the final version. But they have like that sort of they look like mutated like plague doctors. And so then you have this whole other dynamic where, unlike the soldiers you're facing, they don't have like vision cones that you can see and tell. So you have to be very careful with how you move around these yogis. You can't like, you can't predict if they're going to see you or not. And they seem to have much better hearing. So you need to be watching where you're like walking. So Gloomwood's pretty cool so far. I have to
Yeah,
say, I'm interested.
it's looking wild. I kind of would make me want to like get a PC game. Death Trash is the last one we got on here. This looks like is this a roguelike or is this just like an adventure game where you're like rolling and shooting people?
No, Death Trash is like selling itself as a spiritual successor to Fallout 2. More than anything, it's an RPG about where you can mess with anything, right? It's that whole sort of thing with the older Fallout games where you could kill any quest giver, um, and like the whole setup here is, you are a inhabitant of this bunker, right? This underground bunker with like advanced technology. You wake up and you're told that you need to leave because you have some sort of contagion in you, that the robots of your bunker were able to isolate, but like they can't really stop it, so you just gotta go, or else you'll get everyone else a virus. So you're forced out and immediately enter this world that is like the apocalypse, except what if instead of nuclear weapons, it was all meat?
Oh, and there's a lot of meat going on in
Oh
this
yeah,
awesome. There's
like
meat and blood and a dude with blood coming out of his eyes who's in like an ocean of blood.
one of the first things you encounter in this is like this meat kraken, sort of thing. It's like, what if Cthulhu's head was just raw meat and also stuck to a tree? Um, and this thing is just asking you if you can find any friends for it. And
Nice.
it's
Big moon to the apocalypse.
yeah, it's a bit odd. Like it's interesting enough. The things that it allows you to like skill up in are interesting. Like because you have cyber tech, because there are like, this is like the future still. So you have cyber augmentation. You also have meat augmentation. I'm just gonna call it meat augmentation because I don't know the technical term for it. But you can also skill up in things like empathy and animal care. Because one of the things that you can do is you can find these little like meat worms on the ground, and you can use your animal care to get it into your inventory. Once it's in your inventory, I'm not entirely sure what you can do with it outside of killing it and then eating it,
Gotta love the meat worms. Well, that seems
but it's
cool.
there. Yeah, its tone is a little all over the place. Like it does want to be this humorous thing in the same way that the older Fallout games were, but then it also does become this like pretty cynical thing that is, it has that same problem I have with like the earlier two Fallout games, where they're constantly trying to juggle these two things in a way that I don't know if necessarily they're going to be particularly successful in. But I am interested in seeing more of what Death Trash looks like once it releases.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. So yeah, a bunch of cool demos on here, and we got some news this week too that we're gonna get into. So we'll be right back for the next episode. Till then, see you then, Austin.
See you in a bit.